I just got done watching The Last of Us Season 2 Episode 2 and I want to share my thoughts, specifically regarding Joel's death and why I think it works much better than it did in the games. If you're wondering why I'm not as energetic as I am in most of my videos, it's because I'm sad. And I guess that's a good thing because it showcases how this death was handled much better. I'm still concerned about how they'll handle the rest of the show, but that's neither here nor there. Getting back to the elephant in the room, the first thing that stood out to me is the way that they revealed Joel's name to Abby was much better. In the game, Joel just says it as is, without any thought whatsoever. And that was a huge point of contention because that's something that Joel from the first game would never do, given how we see him be very skeptical with every stranger he meets. So the fact that it was Dina that just said it out loud in an urgency makes it so much more better. It just flows really well. Dina is younger, therefore not as experienced with strangers, and she was just concerned for her safety. What's even better is that we know that this Joel would not have shared his name whatsoever, given that later on, when Abby is asking everyone to introduce themselves, Joel still doesn't divulge any information. So not only was that handled properly, I just think Abby as a character is portrayed much better than how she was in the game. And just to be frank, I hated her in the game because the game did not give me any reasoning for actually sympathizing with her when so many of her actions were out of cruelty. Yes, they were driven by revenge, but not only was that information not told to me until later, after I had already spent half the game hunting her down for what she did, but on top of that, her motives were just so much more inhumane. Not that the ones that show Abby presents are any more humane, but the fact that she is able to actually explain to Joel why it is that she is going to kill her, and the fact that she is just a tad bit more reasonable with the captive that they have, makes me lean toward her character just that bit more. I also find her gang much more likable than I did in the game. Aside from the Neil Druckmann insert, everyone else just seems much more vibrant. Like I can identify who is who, whereas in the game, even though they were all horrified by Joel's death, they all just kinda stood there. But over here, you can actually tell what each person is thinking and why they're thinking that. You can tell that not all of them are on board with what's happening. You can also tell how some of them were on board, but now seeing what's happening to Joel, they are not so comfortable with what's happening. Lastly, I think that switching Tommy out for Dina was a great choice. Tommy is much more experienced both in the show and the game, so it felt kind of weird that he went down so easy. Over here, Dina is obviously less experienced, and she had frostbite. She literally couldn't do anything. Even though I'm still a believer that Joel's death should have come much later in both the show and the game, if they had to execute it the way that they did, they went about it in the best way possible, because they were able to do so without compromising the personality of these characters. They didn't have to make Joel dumber or weaker. In fact, given that he's 60 in the show, he holds up a whole lot longer. I know that this death will still be a point of contention, but one thing that I can appreciate is how Abby's actress is putting a lot of emotion into selling how she is feeling. I'm still not fully on board with her story, but it's hell of a lot better than what it was in the game. I know that they still have to make her cruel in order to showcase the cycle of vengeance and how it can take over a person's soul, but her reaction here is a lot more realistic because I could actually see the conflict within her. Even though she didn't express it to Joel, there are times when you can see on Abby's face that she is rethinking what to do and if she even wants to go through with what her original plan was. Yes, she does go through with it because she's the most revenge driven out of the entire group, but those little moments of doubt, those little seeds of something more to Abby's character actually intrigues me in knowing what else is there to her. This paired with how much more likable her entire crew is, I think that the rest of the show will be able to do justice to the story that the second game wanted to tell but wasn't able to. I also think that having Dina present for Joel's death in general and showing the relationship that she had with Joel instead of just telling us about it like they did in the game will also go to great lengths in the coming episodes as Ellie and Dina get closer. Overall, I'm really fucking sad, but this was done well. Like, for new fans that didn't know what was coming, I don't see them being super upset with it because it fit the plot that they have been setting up. It also helps that they started making the first season of the show after the second game already came out, so they knew what the story was going to be all along. They were able to set up the themes of this season way back when. Anyway, I don't know if I'll be able to tune in for the next episode, but that's a me thing. As for the death itself and how it was handled, again, it was done much better. One last thing to add, I appreciate and love how they've improved upon Ellie's character from the second game. In the second episode, she was way more remorseful toward Joel. In fact, her behavior with Joel was just much better overall and way more realistic. Ellie was way too fucking cruel in the game. So much so that I was sad for myself that Joel was dead, not for her. I understand being mad and upset, but in any realistic scenario, there'd be a lot of conflict within yourself. You'd sometimes be more mad than others. Other times you'd want to talk but feel like it's not the right thing to do given how you feel. Bella Ramsey is able to portray that conflict within Ellie much better, and I know that they're saving that porch scene for the end of the show, but holy shit, the way that it's already been foreshadowed, I love that. And I know that that porch scene is gonna fucking hit, just like Joel's death did. Maybe it's the acting, maybe it's Pedro Pascal, maybe it's the realism, maybe it's the fact that the pacing was just much better overall, but this hit much harder than when it happened in the game. And that's saying something because I could not pick the game back up for a month after I saw that scene. But yeah, speaking of the acting, fucking terrific. I tried showing the scene to a friend who knows nothing about The Last of Us and she couldn't watch it. And I think that speaks to the amount of talent that all these actors possess, regardless of whether I like their characters or not. But yeah, it was done really, really well. If you want to hear some more structured thoughts about The Last of Us Season 2, check out this video that I made over here. I talk about a lot of things I haven't seen people discuss before, especially in terms of how the show is improving upon the game. Similar to the points I mentioned here, but just way more detailed. So go check it out if you'd like. If you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this episode, I know you're gonna like that video. But until next time, happy grieving, and this has been Vexodus. See ya.